You're watching Hot Wok Academy. My name is Ming Jin Tong. I'm really excited about this dish. This is definitely a family favorite and one that you can order at a lot of Thai restaurants. This dish is called Pad See-Ew, which literally translates to stir-fried with soy sauce. So I hope you cook along with us. You're really gonna enjoy this one. All right, quick review of our ingredients. Of course, Pad See-Ew is a noodle dish, so we're gonna start with these fresh rice noodles. Now, if you've not worked with this ingredient before, this is really a fantastic ingredient. And depending on where you're located, I'm gonna suggest that you look for these made by Wu Ki out of El Monte, California, a really fantastic product. Be careful with the noodles you buy. These fresh noodles can really be finicky. If you get some that have been frozen, they will not stay together, or if they're overly dry, they will not stay together. These are nice and tender and very fresh, and so the quality of the Pad See-Ew you're about to make will greatly depend on the noodle quality, okay? And this is one big sheet. I'll show you how we work with it in just a minute. Also, for our protein today, we're gonna be using shrimp. You can use any protein you like. You could use tofu, you could use chicken, pork, whatever you like. I'm using shrimp just because I really enjoy that. And here we've got 2 chicken eggs, and the chicken eggs is gonna be a part of the stir fry as well. In addition to the chicken eggs, we have Chinese broccoli. We call it 芥蓝菜 in Chinese. Fantastic, very hearty, and it cooks up just a really, really delicate flavor. Fantastic to go with our Pad See-Ew. Garlic to flavor our oil. And here's just a quick word about the sauces we're using. So this here is black soy sauce. I think this one, this is the Dragonfly brand. This is gonna be for a coloring agent. You can almost think of this product almost like a food coloring. It adds a nice deep color to your food. If you think I'm having a soy sauce stir fry, I wanna see that soy sauce color in my stir fry. I believe this is also Dragonfly brand seasoning sauce. It is very similar to a soy sauce. It's not made with wheat though. This is a wheat-free product and it is kind of sweet. This is a great flavor to add to this. And this is one of the base flavors of Pad See-Ew. And of course, oyster sauce. Oyster sauce is a sweet, aromatic and salty, very common Thai ingredient. Now, a quick word on these. I've not cooked with these on Hot Wok Academy before. Usually I'm using either a Japanese or a Chinese soy sauce. Here's just a thought. Instead of asking yourself, what is the best soy sauce or what is the best oyster sauce? Ask yourself this, where is the origin of the food that I'm cooking? And gravitate toward ingredients that are produced in those countries. And you'll find you have a much more authentic, much more traditional flavor that I think you'll really enjoy. Okay, let's go ahead and start with our prep. For our stems, what we're gonna do, you can actually use the whole stem of the Chinese broccoli. And what you wanna do with it is, for these thick parts, you wanna cut it nice and thin on an angle. And that thin angle is gonna be able to cook much more quickly than if you have a big stalk, okay? Once you get to the leaves, you can be a little more liberal and just cut straight down. You don't need to do that angled cut. And what I like to do is I like to separate my leaves from my stalks so I can cook my stalks a little bit faster. Okay, I'll put the leaves on this side. I'll put the stalks on this side. Next thing we wanna do is we wanna prepare our eggs. So for our eggs, we're gonna just crack it. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna add a little bit of salt. Why do we add salt to eggs before we cook them? The salt helps the egg to not stick to itself. It becomes a much fluffier product when you have it salted before you cook it. But you need to let it sit. So I've added the salt and I'm gonna beat my eggs with that salt. And I wanna let them sit for at least about 10 to 15 minutes until they turn a dark orange color. You'll see the color change in a little bit. But when you beat your eggs like this and you let them sit in the salt, when you cook them up, they become a lot fluffier and they retain a lot more moisture. Okay, we'll leave that to the side. And now we're gonna prepare our shrimp. For the shrimp, what you wanna do, get yourself a nice pair of pointy, sharp, these are carbon steel scissors from Taiwan. And you should have a nice pair of kitchen shears. I've actually got a few, but these are great for doing shrimp. So what we wanna do, this is actually a headless shrimp already. The head used to be here. And there is a vein that we want to remove. And that vein is like an intestine. Lots of well, really the waste of the shrimp is in there. So what we want to do is we're going to go pretty deep right into that vein. And we're going to cut right through that shrimp and right through that shell. And as we do that, watch what happens. You are able to expose that vein and that intestine right there, if you can see that. So that intestine being exposed, now we can go ahead and remove that, okay? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut all of them and then we'll spend our time and remove all of that intestine. So again, right through the center of the shrimp, cut through the shell, and we will actually remove the shell as well. Now, when you buy shrimp at the store, always buy shell on shrimp. Shells have actually a ton of flavor in them. You can even save those shells and you can put them in your stock and it will add a lot of both color as well as flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and again, go right into each one, cut down the spine or cut down the back and open up that shell, and then we will devein them as we continue here. All right. Okay, now we're just gonna go with our finger and remove that intestine just like that. It just comes right out. There you go. And then also you can remove the shell if you'd like to. If you want to leave the shell on, you certainly can. I like to actually remove the shell because when I'm eating, I don't like to have to battle with the shell when the dish is cooked. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it right now. Let me go ahead and get all these done. Okay, when you've got all your shrimp peeled and deveined, you know, one thing I like to do is I like to just give them a rinse in cold water because there's so much of that intestine that's kind of left over. I just want to make sure that it's rinsed real clean. I don't like to have it too, you know, kind of too messy when I'm cooking it. Okay, from here, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of salt just to get it marinated just with salt before we stir fry. Okay, we'll set that to the side. Next, we have to prepare our noodles. So these noodles come in one big sheet. It's like they make it on about a 3 foot by 3 foot metal board and it's steamed. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take advantage of the fact that it is one big sheet and we are going to cut it and then we're gonna break it apart. So here's how it comes, just like this. And you can see where it's been folded over on itself multiple times. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut right along and we will break all these noodles apart before we cook them. So remember, they're folded over kind of like this. So we're gonna cut right about here and that will give us a nice thick noodle, which is the style that we're going for this particular dish. Also, you could see there's clearly folds right here and right here. And instead of putting the knife this direction, I'm actually gonna cut it this way to cut along that fold to get more noodles, again, of the same size. And I will do that one more time on this end as well. I'm gonna cut it here to get rid of that fold, and those will all become noodles I can use. Okay, from here, I'm gonna go ahead and decide exactly how thick, how wide I want my noodle. And I want my noodle to be very wide, probably about 1 inch, because I really like that texture and that shape for this dish. So make some consistent cuts. And just one last one here for the end. Now, what you want to do is you want to take these noodles and you essentially have a big stack of noodles now. And what you're going to do is one by one, you just want to separate it, peel it apart so it's ready to use. That one is giving me a little trouble. Okay, so this is pretty good. Now actually that's 2 of them. So you have to be careful. You do want to separate all the noodles from one another. You don't want 2 stuck together. They're not going to cook. They're not going to cook through in the right way. So just be real gentle with it and peel it apart. This work does take a little bit of time. You can see I'm breaking some of them. There's a couple ways you can speed it along. One thing you could do is you can leave it out at room temperature. That's what I've done. I actually had it on a defrosting board to make sure that the noodle was as warm as possible without letting it cook at all, okay? So we're just gonna separate each of these noodles. Again, that is about 1.5 of them. I'll get that one later. And just keep separating them until you've got them all loose. These noodles were just a little more crumbly than I wanted, but we still have some nice sheets that we've been able to get out. So collect the nice ones and get them into your bowl ready for cooking. Let me just move as many of these nice ones as I've got here over and we will be ready to cook. Okay, so we've got our noodles. They're at room temperature. They're gonna go into the wok just like this. We've got our shrimp with the salt, just letting it marinate a little bit, and then we're gonna stir fry that. And we've got our egg and our vegetables. Well, let's go ahead and go over to the stove and let's cook this. Okay, once your prep is done, what you wanna do is you wanna get yourself a wok. I've got here a carbon steel wok. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it to temperature, and I'm gonna add a little bit of oil. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we're just cooking off our shrimp. We're gonna cook the shrimp, we're gonna cook it very fast, and we're gonna take it back out, and then we'll cook the rest of the meal, and we'll add the shrimp in at the end. So this is kind of a one wok, multiple step method that we often do, especially with wok cooking. So from here, I've got my oil nice and hot. Let's go ahead and find out the temperature. Got my infrared gun here, and that is already at 575. That should be plenty hot. And there is a little bit of liquid in here, so I'm actually gonna scoop it and not pour it so I don't get all that liquid in that hot oil. So here we go. All right, for the shrimp, you don't wanna overcook it. All you really wanna do is cook it till it's cooked all the way through, and we're gonna pull that back out before we make the rest of the dish. I like to toss more than I like to move it around. When you toss it, you give the food a chance to cook very evenly. And as soon as we've got the pink out of the shrimp, we're gonna call it good. So let me actually add just a little bit, or the gray, excuse me, get the gray out of the shrimp. I'm gonna add a little more oil to keep it moving. And remember, this shrimp has nothing but salt. So a lot of the other flavors are gonna come later. All right, we'll go ahead and pull the shrimp out. They may not be cooked all the way through. We're not too concerned because they are gonna go back in a minute. Okay, the next part is going to be cooking the garlic. So we're gonna turn our heat down a little bit, and we're gonna do quite a bit of oil. We need this oil not only to move the food around, but the oil is also gonna kind of soak into the noodles. So it's okay if you have a little bit too much. Here is our chopped garlic that we had earlier. I'll go ahead and throw all of it in. And what we want to do is we want the garlic to cook in the oil and release its fragrance. I can smell it already. I'm gonna go ahead and crank my fire just a little bit more. And I'm gonna go ahead and start now with the stems from the Chinese broccoli. Okay, the stems will go in. I'm gonna bring my fire all the way to the highest point. Let that stir fry. I am not going to be adding very much sodium or any salt to this at this point because there's so many sauces that have salt. I don't want to make it overly salty at the very end. Okay, after my stems have cooked a little bit, I'll put the rest of my leaves in. Now here's a technique that I learned in, where was I? I was in Ao Nang in Thailand. And the way that they add egg to dishes in Thailand is actually by just moving it, moving your products to the side, and you can actually cook your egg right in with the rest of your stir fry. So I might put a little bit of oil just to help it along. And here's my egg. Remember, we added salt to it and it turned a nice orange color. And that's gonna make a great scrambled egg for us. So let's go ahead and add that in. And it's pretty much cooking right away, which is what we want. We'll keep the vegetables out and we'll let the egg cook. This is a very, very fast process for this. Okay, once the egg is fully cooked, we'll go ahead and mix them together. And at this point, I am gonna lower my temperature. And what I wanna do now is I want to add my noodles in. So I'll put my noodles here. Now, the noodles, they need some oil. So I'm gonna add just a little bit here. And what I wanna do is I'm also gonna start adding my ingredients. So first is gonna be my oyster sauce. I'll add that. Next will be my dragonfly seasoning sauce. This is kind of the soy sauce flavor. And then this one here is our black soy, and this is kind of a sweet one. With my temperature all the way up now, I'm gonna add this to the side and to my noodles. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a toss. And boy, the flavors, I can already smell it. Just a fantastic, fantastic smell. Okay, what I want to do, these noodles can be kind of stiff. By putting that much moisture in, it begins to steam those noodles and let them soften up. But because there's still oil in there, what's gonna happen is the noodles will also begin to fry on the outside, which is what we want. So we're gonna move it so it's nice and loose. And then we're gonna leave it so that it can fry. All right, so now we've got it moved around. I'm gonna spread it out. And what I'm looking for here, I am actually looking for the oil to fry that noodle so that the noodle has some burned and crispy parts. It adds great flavor and great complexity to your dish. All right, let's let it cook again. Let it sear again. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add my shrimp back in to give it a chance to finish cooking. And I'll also run and grab a plate. I've got black pepper here. I'm also gonna add just a touch of black pepper. Give that another toss. And I'm gonna let that sear just one more time. I don't wanna overcook my noodles, but because I don't have a lot of moisture in there, I have more oil than moisture. I'm not at great risk of overcooking those noodles. They'll still have a great texture to them. And just one more toss. And we are all done with our pad see ew. As you can tell, that's a very fast cook. I hope you enjoy it. Try it. Try a couple different ways. Make sure to taste the sauces if you don't know what they taste like before you add them. And I hope that you've really enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.